Hello, my creeplings. I'm back. I got another modern horror movie, as in released, I think, last year. Yet another take on the vampire genre, specifically Dracula. Let's just get to it. This is Last Voyage of the Demeter, released in August of 2023. Released by Universal Pictures, as well as DreamWorks Production, Reliance Entertainment. There's a lot of release and production companies involved in this. Directed by Andre Ovredal, from a screenplay by Braga Schut Jr. and Zach Olkevitz. Hopefully I'm pronouncing those correctly and with the right accents. These are very Eastern European names. Based on the Captain's Log chapter from Dracula by Bram Stoker. So this one is specifically based in one section of the original text of Dracula. Like I have said before, talking about Dracula, that book is interesting because there's no real narrative to it. It's all told in letters, telegrams, and in this case, a ship's log. So this talks about that section of the book, what happened on the ship that showed up dead. Because it left the port with a full crew. Other specs, budget was $45 million, but it didn't make its money back. It only made $21.8 million. This has a running time of about 2 hours. And I'm just gonna say it kind of drags in spots. They could have cut it down some more, and it could have been tighter, and it would have been a little more engaging, which is sad because the source material was great. Lots of cast here, but I'll just highlight a few that I am familiar with. Liam Cunningham plays the captain. Now, any Game of Thrones fan recognizes him as Davos Seaworth. So, of course, he's got that grizzled captain thing going on. And the other big name that I noticed in here was David Dalmastian. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. Recently getting raves in Late Night with the Devil. He plays their first mate, their quartermaster, Volchek. This movie's got a lot of accents in it. If you are not watching it with subtitles, you will want to pay attention because some of the accents are a bit thick. The acting in this was really solid. The effects were pretty good. Nice blend of what looked like to be some practical and a lot of CGI. Really, my only complaint was the pacing. Again, I don't know that this needed to be a 2-hour movie. I know that's getting to be the norm anymore, but really, some movies don't need to be padded out. They could have tightened some of this up, and I'm not going to think of, specific examples, but they could have tightened some of this up, and it could have done better. So this is, the basics of the story here. We open up with the ship hitting the rocks on August 6th, 1897. So its wreckage washes ashore in England. Amongst the wreckage, they find the captain's log. So now we flash back to a month earlier, because you got to remember, shipping at this time, you're going from, the Bulgaria, Transylvania, Black Sea area, I believe, or Caspian Sea, one of the two. You have to go through the Mediterranean, around Italy and Greece and all that to go up to Whitby, England. So it's not, like air travel or train travel where it's going over land for most of it in somewhat of a straight line. This is a long roundabout process because of the fact that it's going by ship. But I think ship was still more reliable and definitely cheaper at the time. Great things to look into if you're a history nerd. I'm going to stop with the history lesson here. But if I'm wrong about any of this, any of you history nerds want to gently correct me, again, comments are down there. I always love learning this stuff. So we flash back to a month earlier in Varna, Bulgaria at port. They're receiving cargo bound for London, but of course they'll have to they end up in Whitby. So they get a shipment of large wooden crates delivered to the dock by local Romanian workers who will not unload it. They pass it off to the crew. They pay the crew more than what it costs to get the cargo from where it came from to the port. So you're automatically kind of like, okay, something weird's going on here. Again, if you don't know the story of Dracula, if you know the story of Dracula, you kind of have an idea of why the Romanian crew is acting this way. This Romanian crew is saying they've got to leave before sundown. We all know why. So they pay them, wish them a safe voyage, and they leave, and we never hear from this Romanian crew again. Now, the crew on the Demeter is short, I think, 3 people. Voyage goes to a bar to go and pick up 3 more sailors. One of the candidates is Clemens, who is played by Corey Hawkins. I am not familiar with his work, but he did a very good job in here. Okay, so I don't know how accurate this would be, but he is an African-American man, or not, he'd be African English, but you get what I'm saying. He's a graduate of Cambridge University with a medical degree. Again, I don't know how much of that is historically accurate and how much of that was just for them to try to get a diverse cast. Very interesting, though. So he tries to get in, and of course the quartermaster's like, you don't belong on a ship, blah, blah, passes him over. Well, he's moping by the docks. While they're helping load the crates, the guy that Voyage passed Clemens over for, kind of bugs out once he sees the dragon emblem on the crate. This kind of causes a problem where the captain's young grandson, Toby, who's kind of like cabin boy, takes care of the animals on the ship that they use for food. Clemens, it causes the cargo would have dropped on Toby had Clemens not knocked him out of the way, saved them both. The dude, he's like, you said nothing about dragons, the serpent of the devil, I'm out. So Clemens is now in, partially for saving Toby and partially because, right place, right time. Turns out he is a valuable asset because he, doctor, and he also knows astronomy, which, you can guide your ship by stars. It's all great. They're aboard the ship. He meets more shipmates. The extremely superstitious and religious cook, and the rest of the crew, which is your typical English / Eastern European sailors crew. Some of them are superstitious, some of them are not. Toby shows him around. He introduces him to the ship's dog, Huckleberry, whom they call Huck. We start off on a pretty normal journey. Well, aboard the ship, after they've set sail, one of the other crates falls, and Clemens finds a woman inside buried in dirt. She's alive, barely. He starts doing blood transfusions. I'm having kind of shadows of Bram Stoker's Dracula with Lucy and Van Helsing here. He's trying to treat what he thinks is an infection. We know better now. Later that night, they're in the Aegean Sea by this point in time. Clemens and Olgarin, one of the sailors, they see a mysterious figure on the ship. So this kind of stuff starts happening. Following night, all the animals are dead, including the dog. So one down vote for dead dog. Crew fears a rabies outbreak. They throw the carcasses overboard. The woman in the crate wakes up. Her name is Anna. The actress who plays her, Aisling Franciosi, she looks familiar, but I can't place it, and I didn't look it up. So, she wakes up. She warns the crew about the monster from Transylvania, the creature that feeds off the blood of humans. And in her town, she says they call him Dracula. She was given to him to be a slave of blood. So he or she was his boat snack. His little fruit snack, so to speak. She says he's already aboard the ship and he's looking to feed, and she shows off all the bites on her body. You know, typical Bride of Dracula type stuff or Slave of Dracula type stuff. We've seen this as turned into pretty much a full-on trope. This handles it really well. It doesn't handle it as a trope. It handles it as fact, in a way. So, by night, Dracula starts stalking the crew. They choose, instead of going, you know, Christopher Lee, Gary Oldman, fancy, sexy Dracula, they go full-on Count Orlok, Nosferatu, ratty face, bald, skinny, leathery. They went for the gross, not the gross factor, but the fright factor, the inhuman factor. And it actually looks very good, considering, like, if I'm going to go and, let's see, how do I want to word this? If I'm going to subclass that as a look for a vampire, I always call that the Nosferatu look. My kind of ideal is, Max Schreck, I think it was. He either played the original in Nosferatu the Vampire or the remake. I'm talking specifically about the remake from the 70s, which I really want to get my hands on and rewatch. That, I think they called him Count Orlok in that one. That's kind of like my, like, standard. If you can do better than that, great. If you do worse than that, we got a problem. This one is like right up there. It telegraphs what you're looking. You know exactly what you're looking at that point. Sorry, that was a bit rambly. Trying to get my thoughts in order for that one was a little rough. So first Olgarin gets turned. He's temporarily restrained, but he breaks free and he starts hunting the grandson. So yet another point down for kid attack. Toby's bitten by Dracula during this altercation. The next morning, Olgarin, who had been tied to the mast, bursts into flames. So this is where, you know, you really start getting into your vampiric, how to kill a vampire lists. Despite blood transfusions, Toby does not make it, so they go to give him a burial at sea, and the grandfather thinks he's still alive. They open up the sailcloth that they had wrapped him in, and he bursts into flames and almost takes the captain with him. So we are definitely dealing with a vampiric infestation here. They're picking off each other. Dracula is picking off the crew one by one, and we're using daylight to kind of stop it. Now, Anna has not turned yet, I think because she hasn't died from the bites. So she can walk around in daylight. Just a thought process there. So they end up tossing Toby over alive and alight. So the remaining crew want to destroy the ship and drown Dracula to prevent him from causing chaos when they reach London. They figure out that this is a bad thing. Three of them, Elliot, Abrams, and Vocek, are killed by Dracula. Anna is bitten again in an attempt to save Clemens. Clemens rescues Anna by attacking Dracula with an axe. We all know how that's not going to work. Again, by this point in popular culture, most people are well versed in how to deal with vampires. We have to kind of suspend disbelief because this is way back in the past. Sometimes as a modern moviegoer, we really have to remind ourselves that the characters that we're watching do not have the plethora of knowledge that we ourselves carry. So I know sometimes that's hard. I can only imagine it. I used to know some people in high school that, would be screaming at the screen, "That's not gonna work!" And you just kind of want to look at them and go, "Dude, chill." But I digress. Anna manages to crush Dracula with a part of the mast. Anna and Clemens jump ship, thinking Dracula is dead. But before sinking, the ship ends up running aground on the British coasts, enabling Dracula with superhuman strength to push the mast off his body. Victorious, yay. So Anna and Clemens are floating on debris. She pretty much says, "Hey, I'm turning. I know I'm turning. I can feel I think she says, "I can feel the evil inside of me. I have felt it for a while now," type idea. The blood transfusions only delayed the process. So the day dawns and Anna flames out at sunrise as Clemens drifts ashore. So we get to the end. We get to a local tavern. Clemens is there. He's figured out that Dracula has purchased Carfax Abbey, and he's going to go after him. You see him drawing a picture of Anna in his notebook. It's kind of interesting. While he's drawing, he hears the Demeter was such a solid ship, they could communicate by knocking. Well, he's in the pub, and he hears the same kind of knocking. And he sees Dracula dressed as an aristocrat. He's still got that kind of ratty Count Orlok look, though. So obviously, they are not going for the Gary Oldman, Christopher Lee, Bela Lugosi aristocratic turn on it. But he's dressed up very well. Dracula's laughing at him, kind of, but then he disappears. Clemens sees Dracula's shadow leaving the pub and follows him, and he vows for the memory and honor of his dead companions that he will kill Dracula and send him to hell. Well, we all know he doesn't do that. It takes an English lord, a clerk, his wife, a Texan, a psychiatric doctor, and his mentor to take him down. We all know how the story actually ends. Like I said, this wasn't a bad, it was a good movie. Am I going to rate it up there with my top 10 Dracula adaptations of all time? Probably not. I'm not regretting the time that I spent watching this. I do wish they would have tightened up the narrative just a little bit, because I feel like 2 hours is a little bit too long of a runtime. This was cast beautifully. This was shot beautifully. The costuming was done very well. You remember historical costuming nerd here. The art direction was really well. I really just felt like this suffered from bloated runtime. There had also been, I think, a couple of directors attached to this, and they just kept shifting and shifting, so it kept getting put off. So maybe that was part of the problem. I'm not sure. I would give this a go if you like the Dracula lore. I would give this a go if you are one of those people that you like gaps in the narrative filled in. I would not give this a go if sitting through long movies with some dragging scenes is not your bag. Or if you are such a stickler for historical accuracy that it's just going to annoy the hell out of you. I definitely would probably watch this again with, somebody who hasn't seen it. If I were to do a history of Dracula in the movies, definitely would highlight some bits and pieces of this. It was a pretty good flick. Not my favorite, definitely not bad. If you have about 2 hours to spare and you can sit through it, I highly suggest it. David Dalmatian is great. The captain is great. It was written pretty well. Like I said, it only just needed a little bit of tightening up. So, Last Voyage of the Demeter, decent vampire movie. It deals more with the kind of dread going going through the situation than the actual vampire. Oh my God, we're scared. It's definitely a new take on it that I enjoyed. So I would definitely suggest watching this. But on that note, I've got a lot of things to watch, and I got some interesting things coming up. I'm going to kind of maybe cut off with the vampire stuff for a little while. We might delve into some funky 70s stuff coming up here soon. And we might also, I'm going to try and get into the werewolf stuff. We might also revisit some more Universal Monsters classics. So I got my hands on a lot of that stuff. And I think my first Argento review, that's not Pelt. That's like a full-length Argento. I think that's coming up too. We've had a wild ride this past year. Again, you know, I wanted to do more videos that I ended up doing for like October, for example, but I've gotten some more subscribers. So thank you to all you new folks out there. And I'm hoping going forward, I can get some recommendations from y'all, some more engagement from y'all. You know, the whole like, subscribe, comment. I feel like I'm begging when I say that, like every other YouTuber does. I'm enjoying this as a hobby though, and I'm going to keep doing it. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who's been on this ride with me for, it's been almost a year and a half now, because I started last October. So October was the 1 year mark, and we're coming up on a year and a half. Those of you who have been with me through all the character actor gushing, specifically one person, thanks for dealing with my craziness. I really am enjoying this though, so I'm going to get back to it. So in the meantime, I'm just going to say good night, my creeplings, and I'll see you next time. Bye.